Oh, very, really glad to be here again. It's my third presence here, and I always love to talk in English first. It's not I'm not used to it anymore, but my mother is proud of me of being here. I'm from the Cullerton family. I have Bobby here. Is still the only Cullerton alive. So, so on my Facebook page, I don't know if you saw me, but it's Marc Durand Cullerton. I added because I want to keep the name alive. So, and my mother is still alive, but she married a Martel, so the name is not around anymore. So, thank you, Bobby. We wish you another 100 years. Please stay. So, really happy to be here. Thank you again, Joe, for inviting me. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. So, yeah, the birthplace of hockey in America, it's here. Is it still working? Okay, perfect. All right. So I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, I wrote 3 books on hockey. I presented 2 of them years ago. La Coupe à Québec, the Bulldogs with a lot of Irish content. Jean Beliveau. And also Guy Lafleur. This is my last one. And it's a nice one too. All the same size. Special price tonight. Yeah, that's right. $15 each, 2 for $25. That's okay. 3, I didn't calculate for 3, so I guess we're going to talk about it. We're going to arrange something. Yeah. So, yep, I'm a member of the Société d'Histoire du Sport de la Capitale Nationale, and we are really proud to have discovered something. That's what I'm going to talk to you tonight, and we'll talk about the Bulldogs a little bit after. But yeah, the birthplace of hockey in America, that's what we will find out. So these are my 3 books. Since February 6, 2025, Quebec has officially declared hockey as the national sport, and we have every legitimate reason to celebrate it. So I was really happy to see that, because I don't know if you remember, in 2022, François Legault insisted that we have a committee to talk about hockey, how we can develop our hockey in Quebec. We have less and less hockey players in the NHL, and less kids who play hockey. There's new reality also. So we were 15 on the board. You know a lot of them. There was Daniel Sauvageau, Marc Denis, and other players also, Stéphane Quintal. And I was there also. I'm the guy with the signature here, Marc Durand. And I was the writer of the report. And the only thing I brought in, we talk a lot, but the thing that I insisted it was the first point. We have to declare hockey our national sport, because it's not. We always say that it's not our national sport, but it's not. But we have every legitimate reason to have it here, because we invented it in 1875. So it is the national sport of Canada. That's okay. Winter sport of Canada. Lacrosse is the summer sports national sport. But now hockey is the Quebec national sport. And it's a symbol, I know, but it means something to the people here. Like, I'm really happy to have a lot of people here, because I know the Canadians playing tonight. And I recorded my TV with Davidov. You can tell me the score. I will watch it again just to be sure.
2-0 now for the Montreal Canadiens.
Are you? Yeah. Okay, playoff time. Okay. Okay, we'll come back here. So, here's the guy. We created the rule and hosted the first organized hockey game on March 3rd, 1875 at Montreal Victoria Skating Rink. Here is James Creighton, a Halifax native and McGill University student. And he gathered friends from his rugby team to play inside. Everybody was playing hockey or shinty or hurley on ice. It was common sport, but to bring it inside a skating rink, that was the first time. And because it was inside, it was said that, okay, we have to have new rules, like only 9 players aside. Now it's 6, but they decided 9. The goals were a little bit wider. There were no board. There were only like a 4-inch board. And so they put a puck. They put something flat, because the ball would bounce everywhere, so it wasn't a good idea. And so it was like new rules, a new sport that was invented that day. And that's why we say it's the first structured ice hockey game ever. So it was in Montreal. So we invented hockey like we know it today. It didn't change a lot because at this first game, after like 1 hour of play, the skaters were waiting because they were playing hockey. So they were a little bit upset and a fight began. Yeah, at the first ever hockey game, there was a fight. So incredible. It was in the news the day after. So ice hockey or shinty or hurley has a long history with this depiction of the Netherlands in 1565. We can see it's really small, I know, but there's like people playing with a ball or something with sticks. So that's what we call maybe hockey, play a game. The first time we saw the word hockey in a book was late, 1773, way after hurley or shinty. I will talk about it more later. And you know, it's not like a hockey game that we used to know. It's more like a cricket game or some croquet. I don't know the word. Yeah, it's a child game. And the first real something that looks like hockey is this picture of a book, sports pastime, 1797 in England. So we saw a skater with a stick on ice with a puck. So that's the closest we have of ice hockey. I was talking about hurley and shinty, or I'm talking about bandy, lacrosse. There's different sport. And I have some footage of the sport that is the national sport in Ireland, hurley. So it's said that it was existed way before hockey. It was played on field like that. It's a really fast sport, really violent sport. The ball rarely goes to the ground. It's in the air. If you score like in football, it's 3 points. If you score it at 1 point and in the net, it's 3 point. Sorry, so 3 and 1 point. And you can walk with the ball in your hand for 5 steps, and then you have to bounce it back on your stick or on the field. It's really popular in Ireland, but there's some teams here in Canada, but it's really a national sport there. But it's interesting to know that it looks a little bit like hockey. And the winter version was way different. I will talk about it later, but as you can see, they can hold the ball in their hands. Like, look at that, penalty shot. Every players are in the net. I don't want to be there. Crazy, yeah? Ah! So it was a goal. I don't believe it. It's really crazy. But people say we have to see that at least once. So I hope to go in Ireland and see yeah, it's incredible. And you know the blade, how it is put, it's really crazy. So yeah, they run fast. They have to, like a basketball, they have to dribble everyone in like every 4 or 5 steps, I don't remember. And yeah, it's really, really quick. So it's tough. Some other footage. Like you see, they're dribbling with it. They up, and then we'll try it again. And there's 1 point because it's over the net but between the crossbar. Really exciting. Now we have bandy. Bandy looks a lot like ice hockey, and it was created before ice hockey. It's only played like in Sweden. Like this is a game against Sweden against Finland. It looked like the Nordic jersey, you know. It's crazy. And the sticks a little bit like field hockey. The goaler don't have a stick. This is crazy, two mittens like that. And it's really wide. It's a soccer field, so really wide, really quick also. And I don't know if you remember the Red Bull crashed ice we had in Quebec City. The skates are like that. So it was different, a little bit wider than our hockey skates. So victory for Sweden, 3-1. And the Russian also plays a lot in this sport. So sometimes hockey players will play this. And this is shinty or shiny. And it is played in Scotland. So it's a little bit different. It's more like hockey because it's on the field. It's more like field hockey, in fact. And like we have some footage here. You can see sometimes it's played in the air, but it's on the grass. Hurley is not on the grass. This new version of hurley since like the 150 years ago. But the one it is played. So it's only played in Scotland. So a little bit like hurley, it's their national sport with curling and golf. And well, they have fun playing with this sport also. Less violent than hurley. Hurley is really a violent sport. Now it's different, but in those days it was really tough. All right, so this is, I don't know how to pronounce it, Joe. Common? Common. Okay, thank you. So this is an extract from a London newspaper, and hurley was known there. Like, you have a picture here of a boy really happy to put this guy down. It's really a hard sport, but it's played with a common and a ball, and it was about 21 a side. It was long, it was sometimes several hours. It was a man's sport, really tough. You had to play with really good character. But yeah, it was a sport known everywhere in Great Britain. They know it as the Irish game of hurley. But when you look at those information, like the dictionaries in Scotland and in England, hurl has different meaning, like to hurl, to draw or drive a wheelbarrow, to hurl, to be driven in a carriage, so it's really different. The act of scolding, to throw with violence, to play a kind of game, tumult, riot, so it's special, like there's a lot of meaning for hurl. So when, we'll say that later, but in Windsor, Nova Scotia, they said they invented hockey, but the only little sentence, they were hurling, or they hurl on the ice. What were they doing? Were they pushing a wheelbarrow? We don't know, so it was not very explanative. So, but hurling is a sport. Sometimes it's called hurley, like you saw, and it's really popular in those years in Ireland. So, I didn't brought my book, but it's okay. When I wrote about the Bulldogs, after I published it, there's a guy who sent me, I think it was by mail, an extract of this book. I thought I brought it, but, oh yeah, I have it here. So, I didn't know the book at that time, but, so it was like a reference of hurley in 1824. So it was in this book, Le Journal d'un Bourgeois de Québec. It's a fictional book, but I didn't know that at that time. I thought it was a real journal, like a diary. Like, today I went to in Rue Saint-Paul, Rue Sainte-Anne. Émile Castonguay was a writer, real known. He is the father of Claude Castonguay, the father of La Carte du Soleil. Bon. So it was written in 1950, I guess, and it was about the period of 1824 to 1826. So I said, Mr. Castonguay, did your father invented everything? He said, probably a lot, but he was an historian, so he may have found some evidence. And in this book, in page I don't remember, it says, for the past year or two, children have invented a new winter game that threatens to endanger passerby if it is not soon controlled. I myself almost fell victim to one of these groups of young players who, in the heat of their new pastime, consider anyone attempting to pass where they are chasing each other in the streets as intruders deserving of the most severe punishment. I was walking up the esplanade when, at the corner of Saint-Anne Street, I found myself in the midst of a dozen rascals who, yelling at the top of their lungs, some armed with heavy clubs, others with old brooms, were chasing after a ball. In the absence of the ball, an ice cube or frozen potato is used. Apparently, these battles have been named hurley. Oh, this is nice. But this is a fictional book, so I don't know. So, but I've been searching in the Quebec Mercury and everything, and ta-da! About the same date that in the book, I have a real article saying almost the same thing, exactly. He's complaining that there's a new sport called hurley in the streets of Quebec, and it's everywhere, played by everybody. He's staying at Rue Sainte-Anne, and he's really explaining what they do. They have two teams. The players are divided in two parties armed with heavy bulgeons. The one party endeavoring to drive the ball in a certain limit, which the others strive to defend. What adds to the danger, that hard substance, a lump of ice or frozen potato, for instance, are often substituted for a ball, and being propelled with great force are capable of inflicting serious injuries. Same thing. And this complaint, I'm really happy that this guy wrote that to the Quebec Mercury, because it's the first ever written proof that we played a kind of hockey game in North America. It was played before. It was played in Ireland, but now it's in the street of Quebec. So it's really interesting. So that one was a real good surprise. And for the historian of hockey, hurley and shinty and hockey, in those days, it was the same sport. The same sport. It was just that the Scots called it this way, and the Irish called it that way, and English would call it hockey. So it's the same sport. This is good. So I was really happy to find this. But it was not played with skates. And to be called ice hockey or ice, ideally it has to be played on skates. And we cannot skate in the street of Quebec. In 1748, l'intendant Bigot said, no skating. I don't know where it is there, but I'm sure of it. Believe in me. And it was you have a fine or a prison also if you skate. Same thing in 1822. Skates are dangerous, so no, you cannot do that. A house of correction for 8 days or 15 shillings, something like that. So, but now it's interesting because all those years they were talking about skates only. But in 1836, this guy who complained in the Quebec Mercury said we should not permit hurley on the streets. It's too dangerous. It was now impossible to play hurley. For the first time in the regulation for winter roads, it's prohibited to any person to slide in any train, traîneau, or otherwise to skate or to play at the game called hurley hockey. Oh, so like the new sports in 1824, and now 12 years later, now it's not permitted. So it's interesting to see the evolve of this. And they don't know how to call it in French, so they call it lacrosse. It's not the same sport, but like I said, everything with a stick and a ball was about the same thing. And I guess from one street to another, there were new rules, like when we played outside. So yeah, be my guest. It's the same thing. We have to call it the same thing. So it's not permitted to skate and to play hurley. So where do you play hurley? On the river. That's where we can, icy river. And that's when the other story comes. Because the streets are narrow. This is Rue Sainte-Anne about that time. And we see here some like the face-off of hurley. This is a hurley stick. And on the ice, hurley was different. So the sport of hurley on ice was called common. So is it common? Okay. So this is new to me because when I wrote the previous story, I didn't know that. But if we talk about the winter version of hurley, it's common. So, and it was different because it was on the ice. The other version, summer version, is up in the air. We saw the ball is never on, only if it drops, but we don't play on the grass. So it's really different. Where am I? Okay. Okay, so we have some excerpt of a CBC documentary aired about 20 years ago, clearly showing hockey's origin. The players use hurley sticks, like we saw before in this video, and some paintings that we will see later depict, I don't know the word, skaters with sticks who appears to be playing golf against a sport inspired by hockey. So golf that inspired the hockey. So a stick with something like we say. Oops, sorry. I don't know what I've done. Well, it was the same footage over and over. So hurley on ice. Then it was played again in North America with those hurley sticks common. So if we see some paintings, drawings about Quebec City, like the St. Lawrence River was frozen like 1 year out of 3 at that time. And when it was possible, people would walk, would have a beer, chat and everything, and sometimes they would skate also. But we never saw, I never saw that early hockey stick or kids playing hockey on the St. Lawrence River, anywhere. So the fact that the player was playing hurley on the streets in 1824 and the guy said, it's a new sport. Yeah, maybe it was a new sport for the people of Quebec. In same year, 1827, the city was protected by the British Army for a long time. And this is Gordon Drummond. He was born in Quebec City, but he was the leader of the 71 Regiment of Great Britain. And he was born English in Quebec, and he was there in that time. And he sent the 71 to protect Quebec City in 1824. It says 25 here, but it was 1824 in July. So it was after the hurley game. So he came here. They came here about 850 people. And then I found something else. Now we have a shinty game. A shinty game on first day of January 1825, New Year's Day. This game will be played according to the custom of the north of Scotland with clubs called common, same word. Any gentleman of whole Scotia, desert blah, 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 10 o'clock on that day at the Island Laddies Tavern, Grand Street, Saint-Roch, opposite to John Munn's, where clubs are ready-made to deliver to the gentleman who wants to play. The most convenient spot will be picked by the party that will play. So this is the first mention of a shinty game in North America. And it didn't play it yet, but it was like a real surprise because now we're playing it on the Little River. Is it here? Little River. The Little River is the same thing that the Rivière Saint-Charles, opposed to the Grand River. So that's where they played it with their shinty blade, a little bit different of the hurley blades. And it's interesting because this is the place that they were gathered on January 1st. Grand Street, I don't know the word now, I don't remember, and Queen Street. And John Munn was staying here, and the Island Laddie Tavern was there. So it's really near the river. So it's really possible that they gathered here and take a walk and then played hockey there. Hockey, well, shinty. Shinty, again, it's all the same thing. So John Munn, really known person that built some ships. He was a contractor from Scotland. And he was staying here, and here's John Munn, I don't know the word exactly, but sorry, my English is not that good. Boat builder in Quebec City. So here he was, and here he lived, and the Highland Laddie Tavern was there. So they gathered here, and they went to the river, near the bridge here, and played, that's what's supposed to be, played shinty. And just a little story that I found when I was looking for what's the Highland Laddie means. I didn't know. It's a song. It was popular then. And look at that. It says, I hope my speaker works, but the word Quebec is in the first sentence. Is it working? Oh, I don't think so. Oh, it isn't working. Was you ever in Quebec, Bonnie Laddie, Highland Laddie? It's about that. I was so surprised to hear the word Quebec. So it's nice to see. So we were a building community of ships those years, and it's even in the song. It was sung by a lot of singers. So I just hope my speaker will work again because I have other stuff. So I'll try to bring it to life again. I hope it will connect.
you ever in Quebec, bonny laddie, Highland laddie, loading timber on the deck, my bonny Highland laddie.
That was nice. So, this is the river now. This is a painting that I put on the river. I can't imagine that it went that way. And it was a hockey game because, a shinty game, because on the Quebec Mercury in January 4th, there's a resume of the game. So it was played. So people from the 71 of Highland Light Infantry joined the sport, blah, blah, blah. And we played a game of shinty. So, yeah. We don't know for sure if they had skate, but shinty was a traditional sport for Scotland, and it was often played January 1st. It's like in Montreal in 1840, they played shinty on New Year's Eve. Kingston, Ontario in 1841, shinty on New Year's Eve also. And they said, bring your skates if you have some. It will be a great advantage for you. So maybe some people didn't have skates, but it was propelled that way. So we don't have any proof that he had skates, but yeah. This is a picture of 1830. I was hoping that now that they play shinty or hurley. Yeah, the word shiny or shiny hockey, that's what they say in English. Shinny.
When we were young, we used to play shinny.
That's right.
Play shinny, not shinty.
I know.
Shinny.
And they still say that in English, Canada, sometimes. Yeah, shinny, that's right. But it comes from shinty, the word shinty. So I don't have any hockey player on this also, but I have some British, the British soldiers here with skates. So yeah, they were still around, but no hockey. This is the first one that I saw. It's a John Toole from Dublin, Ireland. He was now living in Virginia, in the States. So it was painted in 1835. It's really beautiful. I don't think it was from Virginia because of the mountain and everything. But skates, ball, sticks. Whoa, looks like hockey. Really nice. So this is the players that I put on my photo. That I put. So it's a nice one. I was hoping to find one of Quebec, but this is the closest. After we revealed the story at Le Soleil, we did it in January 1st. It was a big surprise for us. Somebody sent me this. I just bought it from an auction in England, and maybe we have some hockey players there. So it's Quebec, 1837, and we have two guys here. We expect two guys with clubs, maybe something like a puck, we don't know. Maybe they're just fighting, but maybe, I don't know. But those guys here, look at that. They look like they are gathered with something. Like even somebody told me it looks like a goaltender here. So maybe we can imagine that it's a group of young boys or girls that are playing some kind of hockey or shinty or hurley. This is really nice. I don't know if yeah. Okay. Two other cities. I say other because I think Quebec should be the birthplace of hockey. But two other cities say that for years. Windsor, Nova Scotia, home of Sam Slick, and I will explain it to you later. And Delaney, Northwest Territories. They all claim that they have proof that they have the first hockey game in Canada. So this guy from CBC, I don't remember his name, maybe you can help me, called me and did a story, so we will listen to it.
Was hockey invented? And before you say Montreal, think again. The Canadian game isn't as Canadian as you might think. Most historians agree that the birth of the sport can be traced back to Great Britain, in the ancient sport of shinty, back in the 1600s, when the players apparently played on sea ice. This is believed to be the first ever image of someone playing ice hockey with a puck. The dashing gentleman was playing on the Thames River in this drawing, published in 1797. Okay, there's maybe that, but it doesn't change the fact that for a long time, Canadians have claimed this sport as our own, as our men proved recently at the Four Nations Station. So that raises the question, where in North America is the birthplace of hockey? And that question creates confusion and some arguing. Yes, the first organized game was in Montreal in 1875, but people in Windsor, Nova Scotia, and Denonay, Northwest Territories, beg to differ. Both of those places say hockey, or something close to hockey, started in their town.
In 1988, when the school next door was celebrating their 200th anniversary, and they found documentation of two boys, they even named them, Pete Delancey and John Kennard, and one of them getting their front teeth knocked out with a hurley on Long Pond, and that was 1805 to 1818, that period. Windsor's up front right now, and it's been since 1988, and trust me, we've been in a lot of debates, but we're holding our ground.
We think it's an honor to be, recognized as maybe the first place that hockey actually happened in the Northwest Territories. I don't know whether or not we'll ever truly determine where the first game actually happened. Well, maybe we should have a hockey game, and let's see who wins. Elders used to tell us stories when we were growing up about the fact that there was something going on. They couldn't describe hockey because they didn't know what it meant. They weren't running and they weren't flying. They didn't know how to describe that in the language, right? We had no clue what the elders were talking about. When hockey historians came forward and said, look, we found this letter that makes reference to the fact that Sir John Franklin and his crew, when they came to Dillon in 1825, 1826, were playing the game of hockey to pass the time.
Maybe less organized game, but hockey nonetheless. Those two towns have been laying claim for years. But what if they're both wrong?
I am Marc Durand, and I'm walking near the Rivière Saint-Charles in Quebec City, where we played shinty on ice on New Year's Day, 1825.
This hockey historian was working on a book when he stumbled upon an announcement in the Quebec Mercury newspaper from more than 200 years ago.
December 21, 1824, there's an ad, there's a story that they will play shinty on the Little River, la Rivière Saint-Charles, for the New Year's Eve. And they invite all the friends of Scotland to join in and to play Camanach, that's the word that they called in Gaelic language, the shinty.
And some other hockey historians agree.
I'm not saying that they didn't play something that looked like hockey in Windsor, but we don't have the same level of evidence. Delaney is sort of out of their race because they're later, so the Quebec City one can hardly be refuted. It was clearly documented.
I hope they're not mad at us.
The debate could rage on forever. And maybe that's a good thing.
When someone finds something, then it's encouraging. It means, well, not everything has been found yet. So maybe we can keep looking and find some more. So yes, it's wonderful.
So, a rich history of hockey in Quebec City. But what about the future of the sport in the province's capital? I mean, there hasn't been a pro team to cheer for there since 1995 when the Nordiques left. So the city that could lay claim to the first instance of hockey in North America, the effort to bring pros back to town is unwavering. So since then, there's always been a push to bring pro hockey back to Quebec City.
So I hope they are not mad at us. Yeah, because the New England, the Nova Scotia claim, it was written in 1844 in a novel. It was for a kid book, and Sam Slick, not a real person, said he played hurley on the ice. Was he carrying a barrel? So it was not good for the International Hockey Association, they said, no, there's no proof that it was hockey. And John Franklin did say hockey in this book, but it was found like in 2008, and it was later than us for 10 months. Okay. Why is it all called hockey and not hurley or not shinty? This is one question that I had. But what I found out is that in 1875, when it was played hockey in Montreal, it was an English guy who did organize the game, we call it. And hurley was not played anymore. It's crazy. They were not played, even in Ireland, it was not played. And even the ice. So they were afraid of losing this traditional sport, so they founded the Gaelic Athletic Association that governed Gaelic football and also hurling. And the written rules were made in 1884 to, in fact, start back the game. And it started back, but they had the decision to make. Will we play the summer version or the winter version? And the winter version was a little bit like hockey on field hockey, and a little bit like shinty. But the field and the summer version was the one with the hair and everything. So it's special. So they decided to keep the summer one. So that's how I understand why. So it was the sport was a little bit forgotten. It came back, and shinty was a bit of a Scottish thing. 30 players, one against each other. Hockey was more concise, played by the Lord and the Queen, not the Queen, but the King, and it was like, sometimes it happens. So that's how hockey became the known sport. But you have to understand that hurley and shinty and hockey in those days were exactly the same thing. So, got to be proud of this. But we are maybe, or we don't know if we are the first, but we have the first ice rink in the world. First ever ice cream, sorry, I don't know for the ice cream, but Queen's Wharf, 1851. We had a roof on the ice, and it was the first skating rink ever. So it was in the Illustrated News, I guess. It was special to have this. This is a picture of 1860. So they were built, then demolished the next spring, built again, demolished. It was like for that, it's special, eh? So, and in 1864, they built it in front of the Parliament. Parliament was not built yet, but it was there. And after that, they built the Quebec skating rink that I will show you later. So, if we say that the first organized hockey game was created by James Creighton from Nova Scotia, who was living in Montreal and studying in McGill College, University. Charles Miller is the father, the first promoter of the hockey game in Quebec City. And he was living on Rue Saint-Paul. He was a son of a librarian. And he organized the Quebec Hockey Club, the first club, civil club of hockey in the world. So we have another first here in Quebec City. And it was created because they had now a new rink that was larger than the previous one. The ice was not that big. The ice of the Montreal Victoria rink was exactly like the Centre Vidéotron. 200 by 85, same size. Quebec was 170 by 60, so it was thinner, smaller. So it was there in front of the Parliament. That was not a good news because they built it like at the same time. And this was like a gift from the federal government. They said to the English guys from the Quebec skating rink, hey, you can have this field for about nothing. Okay, great. And then Taché from the provincial side said, hey, we have to build a Parliament. What's that? It's like in front of our view from Quebec City. So they would fight and fighting. So that's why 12 years later, they demolished it again and they built it on the other side of the street. I was saying that the first club was the Quebec Hockey Club of Quebec, and they are known as the Bulldog now. It's the same thing. Bulldog was a nickname, and we discovered that later. It's in the book. So it was really the English guys that were playing there. As you can see, the Saint-Georges cross on their shirts. And the English were not that, there was not a lot of English guys here. They were more Irish and French Canadian around. So they were not that good. When they tried to play against Montreal, they beat Montreal often, but more they had competition, more it was tough. They were there for the first Stanley Cup ever, 1893. They could have won it because they were tied with the first place but they decided not to compete because there was sometimes some rules that they were not. Sometimes it was really crazy. And hockey was not that popular then now. So they were playing a lot of sports on ice. Lacrosse on ice was also played by the Quebec. The first game that they played, it was a lacrosse on ice game. There's even a game that was played, 3 sports. Football on the first period, and then lacrosse on the second, and hockey on the third one. It was that kind of crazy. It was a new sport also, hockey on ice, for the people inside. So yeah, hockey, it's like a little bit like hockey. They had posts on the ice and about the same sport. So this is the new skating rink. Well, they just on the other side of la rue Grande Allée. Here is the Porte Saint-Louis. Oui, c'est ça. This is the entrance of the Les Plaines de Brande now. But there was the Quebec skating rink for all those years. They played hockey, they had an exposition, and of course they won the Stanley Cup twice there. So this is great. This is the first picture of inside the rink. It was for the Carnival of 94, sorry. This is special. Look at that. So it's nice. We can play hockey because the roof is high. No boards. So imagine that there's a check on the other player, and then the spectator was there to beat on the opposite team. Crazy, eh? 7 players aside. This is where how they put face-off. There were no goal. There were no nets yet, so there was post. Often it was like glued on a curling stone, like that. So it's new. And that game of the Carnival, they beat the Stanley Cup winner, so Montreal. And this guy, I just want to talk about him. He's an American. He was the son of the ambassador of the United States in Quebec, and he invented the net. He proposed the net, yeah, because it was ice polo and ice polo. It was like hockey on ice, but they had nets. So he saw that in 1895, so he proposed it. He said, like the Nordics, he was saying, you know, every time we play against Montreal, the referee says a goal was in, but you know, there's no net, there's no way to find it out. So we often complain like that. So he was the one who invented so he's from, well, he lived in Quebec City. He was a great ambassador. But in those years, the Irish guys were better. Oh yeah, they were like this team. A lot of pro players played on that school team here. In 1901, the Quebec Crescents, that's what the name of the team, they were the National Intermédiaire players. A small photo, but you have Patty Moran here. We have, I don't remember his name, but another goaltender for Ottawa. A lot of great players are here. And in 1901, they beaten the Quebec team, like they just played a game. And they were invited to join the top league. But the Quebec team said, oh, well, we'll take your players instead. And that's what happened. So in 1904-05, those prisoners, Quebec Bulldogs, it's only Irish and French-Canadian team. In 4 years, all the English guys were gone. Bye-bye. And we'll have those players, so small. I don't have the names, but you have Moran, you have Rocket Power, you have Chubby Power also. Yeah, he was a great man. And the Power were the Stachny of the time. So there was some French Canadian also. There was Edouard Garneau, I think his number here, Edouard Garneau, from the Garneau family that we know. Librairie Garneau. Oh, there's the name. Jean Leclerc was a doctor. Rocket Power, Rattray, Patrick Morancy, another doctor, I think. Eddie Hogan. Armstrong was a boxer, an American boxer. He was training the team. Yeah, Joe Power, Edouard Garneau. Herb Jordan was a great player also, and James Gillespie. So these were the world champion. Yeah, it's great, eh? But they lost the Stanley Cup. This is a crazy story because Ottawa, those bastards. Quebec was really good that year. And they had the Stanley Cup. And in those years, the Stanley Cup was like a belt in boxing. So if you won the Stanley Cup, somebody can claim it if they beat you. And if they beat you, they get the Stanley Cup. But if you were in the league, and like Ottawa, he was in the league. So at the end of the season, if Quebec finished first, he get the cup, and he will challenge the other leagues in Canada. So they were better than Ottawa. Ottawa quit in February. Say, oh, we're not happy with the rules. We are not. So he quit. We will challenge everybody now. So like they challenged poor teams like the Dawson City that lost 23-2 against Ottawa. It's famous because they had to travel by sleigh dogs and everything to Ottawa. It's crazy, but yeah, they didn't have a chance to win. But Ottawa did kept the Stanley Cup, and Quebec should have earned it. So we lost the first Stanley Cup that year. It was a great team. So they claimed that they were the champion of the world because they were the champion of the best league in the world. Of those players, two stands out. Two Irish guys, Paddy Moran, a great goaltender, the best goaltender, a stand-up goaler ever, because when he quit in 1917, that's when they permitted goaler to go on their knees. Before that, it was not permitted. He was I think somebody told me that he lived next door. Yeah, you did see him, eh?
Oh, yeah.
He was tall, I think. He was, no? Well, not maybe. I thought he was like about 6 feet. I don't know. Maybe. Because Joe was about 6 feet, so I thought it was the same size. Yeah, but he was... he was crazy. People that played against him, there's a lot of book about Paddy Moran. He played like 16 years for the Quebec Bulldogs. And he was...
He was a stick about it.
That's it. Yeah. Stick a lot.
He used to cut them down, though.
That's right. And he was spitting on the players if they come nearer. And he had like a vest, like he can open a vest, and it was like that, not to show anything, just to stop the pucks. So he was... but he has also, I don't know if it's the good thing to say, but sometimes they say that Irish people are, they're prompt? Okay, so if a player would come and want him to lose his temper, they would say something not nice to him, and then the empty net was there. So he was kind of crazy, but he was so good that he's in the Hall of Fame. So he was the first goaltender of Quebec to be in the Hall of Fame. In 1959, so he was still alive when he was. And it's Chubby Power who pushed for him. He was in Ottawa. And of course, Joe Malone. What a nice guy. I don't know him, but that's what people would say, of course. His nickname was Gentleman Joe. So, you know, in those days, there were Killer and Hammer, and he was Gentleman Joe. So this is nice. I don't know what happened to his glove on this photo, but you don't have a glove. So. And you know, remember when Peter Stastny scored his goal against the Hartford Whalers in the playoffs? Like, I don't know. He has also a glove. He's one glove and a hand, naked in the hand, and he scored a goal. So I thought, that's Joe Malone. That's the same thing. You look at YouTube, it's the same thing. So he was really an awesome player, born in Sillery, French-Canadian mother, French-Canadian grandmother also. So he spoke French. There's some story about it. So he was really a great ambassador for Quebec City. And look at that. 345 goals in less games. Incredible. 56 goals in 29 playoffs and tournament games. Scored 5 or more goals on 11 occasions in his career. 4 scoring title. Holder of several NHL records. Still on, like 2.2 goals per game in the first season of the NHL. 7 goals in a single game. I will talk to you about it later. 5 games of 5 or more goals. Gretzky and Lemieux follow with 4. Fastest player to score 100 goals in 61 games. And at least 1 goal in his first 15 career NHL games. Okay, he was like 29 when he played in his first NHL game. But the league that he played before was the NHA. It was the same thing. I just hate it when the NHL said, we started 1917. Come on. In 1809, it was a real first year, but it was another name. But in 1917, with the war and everything, they had like the Toronto owner was not that good. They were not fan about him. So the other teams, like Quebec, Montreal Canadian, and they decided to say, okay, stay in the NHA, we'll start a new league. It's the same players, except the Toronto guys. So, well, but the record don't stand that much. So I have a small video It was made like 10 years ago, and you will see Joe Malone Jr., and you will see people from the neighborhood that were friends with Paddy Moran at the house, Rue de Sanne. He told me that you will see it, and it's in French, but I guess everybody will understand. Whoops. Should start. Don't start. Okay, maybe here.
Un autre matin d'hiver comme les autres sur les plaines d'Abraham? Pas si sûr. Qu'est-ce qui peut bien amener ce bulldog? Ici, à l'endroit même où il y a exactement 100 ans, son ancêtre était le roi de la ville. En mars 1912, le courageux club de Québec est dans la course pour le championnat de l'Association nationale de hockey. Le vieux skating rink qui ne compte que 1400 sièges ne suffit plus. On s'arrache les billets. En février, jusqu'à 3500 spectateurs assistent à une victoire du club de Joe Malone sur les Canadiens. Au dernier match de la saison, le 2 mars 1912 à Ottawa, Joe Malone égalise le pointage avec 7 secondes à faire, puis obtient une passe sur le but de son coéquipier Joe Hall en prolongation. Une victoire de 6-5, la plus importante de l'histoire du club. Le lendemain, 6000 amateurs accueillent les joueurs à la gare du Canadien Pacifique et les portent en triomphe jusqu'à l'hôtel Victoria où on les fête en champions, ceux qui ne le sont pas encore. Avec une victoire, les sénateurs peuvent les rejoindre au premier rang. Le mercredi 6 mars, les joueurs de Québec sont encore à l'hôtel Victoria et suivent le match Ottawa Wanderers à l'aide du télégraphe. Vers 23h, le dernier message provoque l'euphorie. Wanderers 5, Ottawa 2, Game Over. Les amateurs sortent de l'hôtel et annoncent la bonne nouvelle partout. Le Club Québec a gagné la Coupe Stanley. Il la défend avec succès à Québec les 11 et 13 mars contre Moncton, qui l'écrase 9-3 et 8-0. Une victoire signée par 3 Irlandais de Québec, Jack McDonald avec 9 buts, Joe Malone avec 5 et le gardien Paddy Moran, auteur d'un hors-jeu blanc en match de la Coupe Stanley. Le fameux trophée prend place dans une vitrine du magasin Old Renfrew, rue Bual. 100 ans plus tard, la vieille ville a bien changé. Les années ont effacé plusieurs traces du passé. Même l'épigraphe de Joe Malone en souligne l'exploit. C'est ailleurs qu'il faut parfois chercher.
Grand-père ici, Walter Rooney, il a gagné la Coupe cette année avec les Bulldogs de Québec. C'est ici qu'habitait mon grand-père, Walter Rooney. J'adore ma ville aujourd'hui à cause de mon grand-père. Malheureusement, il est décédé en 65. J'avais que 10 ans. Je sais qu'il jouait toute sa vie, mais qu'il avait gagné la Coupe Stanley, non, à 10 ans, je ne savais pas. Il n'en parlait pas trop.
Le dernier cadeau qu'il m'a donné, là, c'était un hockey.
Jean-Marc Dubuc n'a pas gardé le cadeau de son parrain, Paddy Moran, mais lui et son frère se souviennent du grand gardien.
J'avais à peu près 13 ans, 12-13 ans. Et puis, il m'a montré sa montre. Il sortait sa montre, puis il y en avait clair, s'il vous plaît. Tous ces trophées, je les ai tous vus. Et puis, évidemment, ça s'est disparu, ça.
La maison de Paddy Moran, rue de Sanne, est encore debout.
Le ménage va se faire très, très, très bien.
Son héritier Richard Tardivelle la rénove et en découvre encore quelques secrets. Des photos de Paddy devant sa maison et ce certificat miraculeusement intact.
Sa première communion et sa confirmation en 1888.
On rêve toujours de trouver le vieil père de patin, j'imagine.
Ah, oui, ça s'arrête.
Et le musée du Club Québec se retrouve à London, en Ontario, chez Joe Malone Jr.
1911-12 and 1912-13.
À 87 ans, le fils du plus grand joueur de Québec en garde jalousement les plus beaux souvenirs.
I would say of all the events that he cherished after his career was being elected to the Hall of Fame. They had an event in Quebec City, and he was quite proud of that.
C'est à cette occasion qu'il reçoit cette plaque, le 30 mars 1952, au Colisée de Québec.
I think this was a copy given to Grandpa, my grandpa.
L'autre copie, longtemps en vedette au Colisée, est aujourd'hui disparue. Un peu négligée, comme la reconnaissance du Club de hockey Québec et de ses héros qui, il y a 100 ans, ont gagné la Coupe Stanley.
So, nice story, eh? It was nice. Yeah, and Mr. Malone died now, dead now. He was at, like 10 years ago, they were like the Parade de Saint-Patrick. He was there. And he was so proud with his Quebec Bulldogs jersey and everything, so it was really nice. Some quick pictures. This is the first Stanley Cup. It's here. And there's a lot of Irish guys there. Joe Malone, Paddy Moran, Jack McDonald, Jeff Malone, Walter Rooney. There's a lot of those. George Carey, I guess. Joe Savard had a mother, Irish mother. And it was the first year that they put some numbers on the jersey. They put it in front and on the back. It's crazy because like number 1 for the goaler, number 2 and 3 for the defenseman, number 4 for the center, number 5 for the right winger, number 6 was there, number 7 spare player, 8, 9, 10, 11. So goaltender with number 1, still the case. It's from that. They didn't know where to put it, so he put it in front of the Q. So it seems like a 10, but this is crazy. And this guy, it's not on the picture. This guy here, Dave Bella, also an English guy, is the first Olympic athlete from Quebec City. 1908, he did the 100 yards in London. So he was the trainer of the team. So they had a good trainer. And this is the Stanley Cup again, and this is the Bulldog. And this is where it happens. Like in February 8, 1930, they were really good that year. And an Ottawa journalist, Tommy Gorman, said, the Quebec team is holding to the Stanley Cup like a Bulldog, something like that. So that's how it became the name. Like the day after, Daily Telegraph, the Quebec Bulldogs, and then the Bulldogs for at least a year. Like they said, like, oh, it's a nice name for a team, Bulldogs. It stayed, but it's not the official name. So it's crazy, but they had the Bulldog, and it's Joe Hall Bulldog. Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame. This is great. 5 players on that team, Hall of Fame, and those 2 are from Quebec City, Ireland guys. They say that the Colisée was built by Jean Beliveau. That's right. The arena was built by Joe Malone because they won 2 Stanley Cup. So in 1913, they decided to go there and build a new arena. Here we see the Stade Municipal, where the Capitale played. It was built in 1938, so I guess this is just before it burned down in 1942. The Quebec skating rink burned down in 1918, 42. The Colisée, 1949, burned down again, so it happens a lot in Quebec. It was 6,000 places, and that's where they end their stint in the NHL. Oh, this is I know there's some ladies here. And we don't talk a lot about the hockey, but on the first year, the World War I, like for the baseball girls in World War II, they had like female hockey players. And they had some games in Quebec. Montreal Westerns, like they were the Wanderers, but they call it the Westerns. And the Quebec Ladies. So they had some games and people were playing on that. They had a trophy, the Dinnan Trophy. But the big star, and she played twice in Quebec City, was Albertine Lapensée from Cornwall. She was really good. She was paid a lot to play hockey. And she was playing, somebody was saying, like a man. So I had to check, is she really a she? So they had some question about it. And in 1918, she disappeared. We never found her after. What happened to her or him? I don't know. But they had some books and they had some birth certificate. They were checking the news. She is a lady. We checked. That's what they say. But yeah, we had like for 2 or 3 years, they had like ladies playing hockey at the arena. And it was a good thing because the men were not allowed to play hockey. They were supposed to go to war. And Joe Malone asked for going, but he was working for the Russ Rifle. So they say, no, you're more useful in Quebec City. But the Russ Rifle closed. And the team disbanded in 1918 because Jack McDonald, and Paddy Moran was retiring, so they had no players. So they said, okay, well, we're gonna rent our players for the new season of the first season of the NHL. That's where he scored a lot of goals for the Canadian. But they came back in 1920 for 1 year in the NHL. They had only 3 teams that year, so maybe you can play and you'll get back your old players, but the old players were really old. And there was only one good player on the team, it was Joe Malone. They lost 20 of their 24 games. He scored 42 goals. Incredible. He was the first scorer of the league. And that night of January 1920 in Quebec City, he scored 7 goals. Yeah, one, and he refused one in the first period. He could have 8. So Malone here, Malone 3 times in the second period and 3 other times in the third period. It is still, after, I think it's 55,000 NHL games, still a record. The last time a scorer scored 6 goals is Daryl Sittler. Oh, yeah. 1976, against a goaler that never played again. That's right. So, a Boston goaler, we know why now. So, yeah, Daryl Sittler scored 6 and nobody else. So, this is it. They played only 1 year, and after that, the team was still the NHL property. So, without any spectators and success, they said, we'll transfer it to Hamilton. We think it's a better market. And then New York, Boston, Detroit, Chicago. So it came back only because the Nordic was in the WHA. And I don't think it will come back ever. Sorry, yeah. Okay, so this comes out of a souvenir. We found the plaque. Like 2 or 3 years after, the city of Quebec said, hey, we found it. It was in a locker or something. So I had it for a weekend, and then they polished it, and they put it way back in the Pavillon Guy Lafleur, le Pavillon de la Jeunesse. You have to, like I don't know, you have to find something like oh, it's there. Ah, so bad. I wish it would be more. So, yeah. Mrs. Malone, when they went to the parade here at the Galloway, and he was there for the inaugural playing season of the Rempart. It was nice also. This is Mrs. Rooney, the daughter of Walter Rooney. And I have a nice story. I never told this one. So Mrs. Rooney, maybe Joe had it. Mrs. Rooney, I knew Catherine McKenna. And she told me, I asked her, do you have like stuff, souvenirs of your, no, not really, I have a picture. And then she called me like 2 years after. My mother lives in Ottawa, and she found a picture of the Quebec team in a garbage bag. Oh, so she bring it here in Quebec, and this is it. The Quebec hockey team with all the players, and his Walter Rooney's here, Joe Malone somewhere, champion of the world, 1912, first Stanley Cup. So it's incredible. So John, you know about this. I went to Classic Auction, and I saw one like that. It was $1,000 that was sold. So I said, Mrs. Rooney, I'm going to give you $1,000. I said, no. I know it worth that, and I won't sell it. I still have it. And I bought her, so I gave her the money. She died a few years later. I was here at St. Patrick's Church. I was there at the funerals. And I went outside, and Catherine was there, said, you know, my mother said to me on her bed that she wants to give you back the money. So yeah, it was really a gift. I was really touched by this. So Catherine gave me back the money, and it was something that I cherish, and I will never sell this one. It's really nice. It's now really in a nice portrait. So, well, we talked about the first 100 years. There were more after that. There was Jean Beliveau, les Citadelles, les Nordiques, les Remparts, Guy Lafleur. Of course, some hockey players like Patrice Bergeron, Simon Gagné. There was a lot of stars here. We have a great history for more than 200 years now. We can say that we are a place of hockey that we cherish, and I think that do the thing. I should have worked my ending. Merci beaucoup.